Cause you know I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Web3 breakfast, serving size like Texas. I'm a beast, yeah, baby. You know I'm reckless. We stacking blue chips, my people by the dip. Matte Black Lambo coming soon. Don't forget, sign the check.
Web3 breakfast. Fuck a Lexus, push a Maserati, keep a diamond Jesus on my necklace. I'm living reckless. Fuck a job, cash the check, grab the bag, hit the flight, we on the next one. Wife changing money, just ask my honey. Got a diamond on my face, I can't help it, I'm new money.
Web3 breakfast, wake and bake, appreciate the checklist, moderate the stage, perplexing everything you say, and not to mention, I think I rug. Maybe I should shrug it off, go touch some grass, perhaps some plug.
Web3 breakfast,
Web3 breakfast.
Web3 breakfast.
Yo, GMGM fam. Hope you are doing all right today. It is Wednesday, July 26th. Got a great guest plan for today. We got Unstoppable Domains in here. Going to be talking all about empowering the decentralized internet. I think this is super important. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan. Had the .crypto, the .nfts for a while. Recently, as of yesterday, got my jchains.x squared away, so we are locked and loaded on the X. I think that's super important, especially with the Twitter push, rebranding to X. I think that's going to be something that we might see move in another direction pretty soon here. That's my opinion, but I can't wait to talk to you guys about that and kind of get some more opinions and everybody's thoughts about that. But I'll tell you what, there's some interesting stuff happening right now. Seven, I believe is it the House Oversight Committee's talking about UFOs?
Yeah, they're just asking questions to everybody right now.
Do you think this is going to be an interesting day of truth telling, or is this just a distraction from something else?
Dude, honestly, I think that they have so much information that this is probably just going to be like the tip of the iceberg, and it's going to distract us from something, because why today? And what's the significance? Like what has happened? Unless they come out with some crazy shit where they're like, okay, this has been happening and we can't control it anymore. You guys are going to eventually see this, so we're going to let you know. But this has been happening, and there's no way we can cover it up. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I'm definitely interested to hear how it all goes. I know we've got some people that are going to give us some updates. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. I'm also thinking, we were talking Turbo, he's got some things going on today where the job that he was doing this week, he's got to talk to the people, whatever. So he'll be in and out. And so he might miss what's going on with the UFO stuff anyways. So I'm thinking, let me just pop open the calendar really quick, because I know, we had a schedule of events for the week. For tomorrow, we were going to talk about what's different about Web3. I think that we could probably postpone that conversation to next week and maybe do a recap of this UFO thing. And we can all do our own little deep dive, later on today and learn about it, because it's either going to be extremely fascinating or a nothing burger. I think, my opinion. We'll find all that out today. But I do know that that thing that just started a couple minutes ago. 10. Who knows how long you think that's going to run for? 7. Is that like an all day thing? Those oversight committees? Any idea?
I think they go as long as they want to, and then they just walk out when they want to.
That's interesting. All right. Well, typically, we'll chop it up for a little bit, but I know that Unstoppable is here. We've got a couple people with the badge. So if you guys want to come on up at any point, I think that I have requested you guys to speak. If anybody else needs to pop on up here, please do so, guys. Remember, this is Web3 Breakfast. We are a show for the community, by the community. Everybody is entitled to be up here, participating, engaging in the conversation, asking questions, giving their opinions. We just have the one rule: it's don't be a douchebag. So no racist, no sexist, no homophobes. Other than that, everyone is allowed to be up on the stage to participate. And so, all right, so we've got Unstoppable Domains in the for the show today. Again, talking about empowering the decentralized internet, and I think it's really important. We want to talk about their recent integration with the .eth addresses and why that's so important. Does that make them now the ultimate one-stop shop for your Web3 identities and domains? You can do, like I said earlier, your .crypto, .wallet, NFT, .x, all the different domains that you can get through Unstoppable, but now with the .eth integration, and I think that that's absolutely fantastic. Making it easier for the user. I think that's one thing that we've all talked about is, what does mass adoption need? What does crypto need? What does blockchain need? And it needs to be usable. And people need to be doing something that doesn't require more stages or more steps than what we currently have, because that's where we're at right now, and that's why some people are like, no, that's too much for me. But I do welcome you guys up here. Brad, what's up, fam? Ooh. Oh, here we go. I guess I had the tab open, and so the hearing committee just started. Oh, that's funny.
That was so weird. I was like, "Who's doing that?"
That's I immediately
just
looked down, and I'm
randomly
like, "Wait a second! I don't see anybody's microphone on. Like, what is that about?" Okay, so the subcommittee just started for all you UFO people out there. Yesterday we did put out a post, excuse me, a poll based on the conversation at we were talking about ghosts, I think, at that point. And yesterday, going into the evening, the yeses were way out in front on that poll. And so let me pull this up really quick to see where we are, because I think we got about an hour left, because it should be at about 11 o'clock when that thing is set to expire. And of course, I'm not going to be able to find it right when we're talking about it. Interesting. Now it's like not on my timeline at all. That's funny. Oh, there we go. All right. With oh nope, results are final with 271 votes. 59.8, so 60% of the people said yes, they believe in ghosts. That was interesting. You believe in aliens too? I guess that's the question after today, but that's another question for tomorrow. So Ben, what is going on? Or excuse me, Brad, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. And anybody else from the like I said before, anybody else from the Unstoppable crew, if you guys want to pop on up, please feel free. But Brad, let me ask you a question. We can get right into it if you guys want. I know that you're the co-founder of Unstoppable. You've got a lot of things that you guys have been doing over the last it really, to me, it feels like a short period of time, right? We like to call this the build market here. I'm not really a fan of calling it a bear market. And so a build market. And with that being said, I mean, it feel like the announcements that have come out of your company recently, but throughout pretty much consistently of this build market has been fantastic to hear. And that's important, because the only way for us to get bigger as an ecosystem is to constantly evolve and to make things bigger, better, easier to use. So what's been kind of your vision and motivation to make, Unstoppable not really that one-stop shop, but, sort of by offering, the ones that you traditionally were, but now the .eth domains?
So I think what we've always thought is that Web3 domain names are going to be the new identity on the internet, and all 5 billion internet users are going to have them and are going to use them daily. But that we're extremely far from that goal right now. Like we have, it's really just for crypto users today, and not every crypto user has one yet. So we're pretty far from that goal. But what we think is going to make it easier to get there are easier onboarding. So like we don't think that every single user is going to be the type of user that downloads MetaMask, uses MetaMask every day, lives in Ethereum, etc. Like, we think there's going to be a lot of people who maybe just want to use a credit card, and so we enabled credit card purchases starting in 2019. We have things like a vault feature, which allows you to back up your key in case you're afraid of losing it. So we've tried to do things that we have Web 2 login, for example. So you can like log in with Gmail if you don't have a MetaMask wallet set up. So we've been trying to do these things to make it really easy for people to get started. And we always thought that, hey, this is going to be a big space. There's going to be multiple TLDs on multiple blockchains, and we need to be supporting all of those. So yeah, this is a little bit closer to like the GoDaddy model, where you're selling other people's domain names and not just yours. So this was, a big shift for us, because we've always sold our own domains before this. But supporting .eth just made sense. And I think that we can bring something to the table that didn't exist prior.
I like that. Now, have you seen more people utilize the vault since you've announced it and rolled out the .eth stuff? Have you seen more people utilize the vault? Because I feel like that's newer as well, right?
Yeah, that came out in February, I think, for Unstoppable's TLDs.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's been going for the past few months. It's been a pretty steady pickup. I think that the joke is that it's the hardcore folks during the build time rather than the more normies. So I think that a lot of what we're doing right now is setting ourselves up for the next phase of crypto adoption when new people are coming in. But the pace of new people coming into crypto right now, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is down.
Yeah. Well, what do you think is going to be, we've got, I certainly have my own, beliefs of what is going to be the catalyst. And, we talk about it regularly on the show, but in your opinion, what is going to bring, more people into our ecosystem? Obviously, with the Bitcoin halving cycle, slated for, quarter, I guess at this point it's in April of next year. And we'll see, if there's more, movement on the Bitcoin, blockchain with the ordinals and stuff to expedite that even faster. But with that being said, what do you think is going to bring people into this ecosystem other than just price? Is it gaming? Is it just the decentralized web? Is it music? What are your opinions on that?
So last cycle, and Unstoppable we went live in January of 2019. So I think ETH was like $160. It was like the height of the bear. And we were coming out with an NFT product, and it actually did okay even in the down market. But during that time, I thought it was going to be crypto payments and stable coins most likely, and I was completely wrong. And payments basically didn't happen at all, and it was DeFi and NFT collectibles. So I was nowhere close last time, so I don't have a strong view of my own opinion. I don't actually know. I think there were other trends I was watching last time, like for example NFT art. Some of these there were like a lot of these like kind of like fancy New York artists that were starting to do stuff. I thought maybe that would be a big thing, and it was kind of a thing. Like there were some. But the animal collections wound up dominating, and I never would have guessed that. I actually overlooked those at the beginning because I didn't understand it. So I feel like I'm a bad predictor of future crypto trends, unfortunately.
I'm with you there. As far as kind of being in the wrong place at the right time, I feel you. My previous channel that I was doing at that point was 100% focused on the metaverse, and not even the NFT aspect of the metaverse. It was just more like the overall kind of concept of it, right? And so, man, I missed a lot of the hype, because I was more focused on being ahead of the curve, which I think ultimately we need to get back to it, because we know our ecosystem is going to head that direction. The metaverse is not far off. And that's why I think with gaming, and we could call the metaverse gaming, I think to some extent, in a lot of the opinions of the people here, when we talk in the morning of gaming and music being probably the two biggest catalysts of how we see people entering the space. to me, it's going to be when we get to the metaverse, and we're a number of years away from what we all know as, like the Ready Player One thing. But when it comes to now securing, your digital identity, what role do you think you guys are going to be playing within when we get closer to the, like, I'll use air quotes. I love using air quotes right now with some of our terms and things in this ecosystem with the metaverse. But what where do you see your role in securing identities when we get to say something like that Ready Player One ecosystem?
So I think the general trend that we're in right now is this movement into living more of an online life instead of living more of an offline life, having more of our assets be digital instead of our assets be physical. And I think that's just like a giant broad trend that we're all on. I think COVID lockdown time was an accelerant, and everybody kind of got to taste a little bit of what that was going to be like in the future. But I think it also just made it happen a lot faster. So I think you're right. I think that there's going to be a moment in the not so distant future when we're going to say to ourselves, my digital assets are more important to me than my physical assets. And I think that NFTs and crypto are really good examples of those things. And so if you're living your life digitally, then your digital identity all of a sudden becomes extremely important. How are you going to identify yourself in a metaverse? How are you going to identify yourself across metaverses? How are you going to verify your reputation? How are you going to communicate with people? So I think all of those things, your digital identity, your domain name is going to be able to do those things. I think you're going to be using it as your, effectively your inbox or your email address. You're going to be using it for payments. You're going to be using it while you're walking around in the metaverse, kind of like your digital name tag. So I think it's going to be all of these things. And the more we live in a digital world, the more important your digital identity is, and also the more important digital assets in general are. So I think that's where we're headed.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, like, you have to think at some point, the consolidation of all the different logins and user identities and stuff, we need it. Like, and I don't really advocate, and anyone, please come up and join this conversation, whatever. But like, I'm not specifically advocating for KOL in any way, shape, or form. I think it goes against kind of the ethos of what crypto is, and I that's there's a lot of varying opinions on that. I think that we do need to kind of verify some kind of identity in some way, shape, or form, and only to, when we talk about gaming, I'm a father, I don't want, my children to kind of, or my daughter to be like, find her way into, some of the cesspool areas of what we know the internet can be. And so finding a way to, age restrict or age verify certain segments of, say the metaverse or the internet as we move forward, within this identity. And so, and what I love about what you guys are doing, to be honest with you, more than I like the, the .eth addresses. I love my jchains.eth address. Don't get me wrong. But I hate the fact that, there's the renewal and, it's something you got to think about and like, oh shit, did I let it go? You guys got this auto renew thing. And I know that you could probably do that with ENS. I'm just, we're talking about what you guys are doing. That potentially could be, the one login for, all the different chains. Because, when you log into your Unstoppable account, like you can put in a Cardano address, you can put in a Polygon, obviously, the ERC20 stuff, you can put in a Bitcoin address. So, depending on, whatever blockchain you happen to be working in or using, right? Because we got to think, at some point, medical records may be on the blockchain. Which blockchain? I have no idea. It's got to be a secure one. We know that. And so being able to, like you said, seamlessly, integrate with different blockchains for the different aspects of your identity, maybe that's the way that we, through Unstoppable, through your system is how everything is provable, so that we can, have like a metaverse ecosystem so that, children can go somewhere. And like you guys have heard the story about when I logged into my Oculus for the first time and it was nothing but absolutely insanity that, I wouldn't want anybody to see. But do you think that you guys have the potential to be that, that one login credential for, accessing anything that, where we get to within the decentralized internet?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a superpower of blockchains, which is that it's really like it's an open, it's an open system. Anybody, any app can just go and read a record off the blockchain. So it's an identity system that doesn't require any permission. It's just out there on the blockchain. So any app in the world can say, hey, I'm going to allow the use of your Web3 domain name as your identity in my app. And the user can decide what information about themselves to share with that app. So it's this very it's an open system where the consumer has control. And so this like opt-in method of the internet, like I think that's just a better way for the world to work. Like right now, Facebook controls all your information. Facebook decides who to sell it to, what happens with it, etc. And in this new world, when you have control, I think you're going to just have this competition amongst all of your apps. There could be hundreds of different social apps or metaverse apps or whatever that are all competing for your attention. And in order to log into a new one and bring all of your profile information and reputation with you is 2 clicks. Whereas today, if you want to go and join a new social media network, it might take you a year or 2 to build up that reputation because your reputation is locked up in some other platform. So that dynamic, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But the fact that you can just click out, you could just say, I'm tired of Instagram. I'm just gonna click over here to a new app with a new UI, but all of my data stays. That is going to be what I think launches this wonderful diverse array of experiences in the metaverse. Is that this hyper competition? There's not going to be 1 or 2 players that are going to own the metaverse like what happened with social media. So I think that's really the superpower here for the users, that the user gets to be in control, and then all of a sudden apps have to compete for us in a way that just wasn't happening before.
I really like that. So, and speaking of social media and stuff, are you guys the only one that offer the .x domains?
Yeah, there is a problem in Web3 domain names where anybody can launch anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so what winds up happening is what makes a legitimate TLD is whether or not apps support you. And every now and then people will pop up and they will try to trick users. And they do not get app support because apps do not want to endanger users. If you can imagine having 2 of the same TLD floating around, that users could get confused. So you will see people pull this stunt every now and then, and we work it out. So that's why we also have the Web3 Domain Alliance. But yeah, it's a shame that people will try to trick users in crypto. And I also hear this argument every now and then that it's decentralized, like IP doesn't matter. Tell that to the user that got scammed on OpenSea.
Right.
So I think that's just a very short-sighted view that seems to exist amongst some sort of extreme folks in the crypto community. But I'm here to say IP matters, protecting users matters, scamming and tricking users is not okay. And we're going to have to deal with that as a community.
Oh man, I like that. So with all of that now, and maybe I guess maybe the follow-up question and where I was going with all of this is, with the .x domains, with the Twitter rebrand to X, what are some of the implications that you see from that transition? Do you obviously there's positives and negatives. There have to be. There's the potential for those .x domains to just skyrocket, just completely, everybody just gets what they need, or this becomes some kind of issue because of the confusion.
I don't see any confusion. Elon has x.com, we have .x. Those are 2 very different things.
Oh, so, yeah, I mean, I know they're different,
there was a rumor out there that Elon was going to go and try to take it from us somehow. And that's just not how this works. That's just not how IP or domain names work. So Elon does have x.com, and we have .x, and I don't see any issues there. I mean, my hope is that eventually .x can be a username system for social media apps. I mean, that was kind of what we had in mind. We thought that it would be a TLD that sounded like, you know, the future. Like I think X has that kind of futuristic quality, but at the same time is meant for everybody, meant for mainstream users, not necessarily people that are just crypto users. So it's intentionally not crypto branded. And one of our advisors, who I've known for quite a long time, is a guy named Andrew Rosner, who is one of the top. I think he was the top .com domain broker in the world, and he actually did the deal with Elon's company back in the '90s for X.com, and has written about X being the most valuable domain term in the world, and that was part of the reason why we actually chose to launch .x back in 2021 was his advice, and he's also tied to the X.com purchase.
Now, let me ask you a question. I went on. I was very curious, and so I had to check this out. X.x is protected. Is that protected for them, or is that just because it's?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think at this point we were thinking, you know, that is going to be. You always have to watch yourself when you're talking, when you're trying to figure out like where the line is between, you know, whether or not something is, you know, just a general domain name or whether or not something should be protected. And it really comes down to, do people in the market think that this is associated with one company or one person, or potentially associated with many companies or many people? And, you know, Elon is a marketing juggernaut. So, you know, maybe a month ago, you might say that this was not actually almost exclusively associated with Elon and Twitter. But as of today, I think it clearly is. I think if you were to ask people what's X, they would probably say, you know, it's Elon's Twitter thing. So I think that he's accomplished what it tends to take brands years to do, which is take over association in the minds of users with this one term. So yeah, it's basically the most it's the most impressive rebrand I've ever witnessed. Like his rebrand went viral. Like who does that? You know, like rebrands are normally the most boring thing in the world and people get confused, but somehow his rebrand went viral. So I think yeah, it's pretty masterful. So any entrepreneurs watching that and wondering how to rebrand, I would say we just saw a pretty amazing playbook.
The master class, if you will. I mean, like you said, like for a rebrand to go, and you look at Twitter Spaces. I mean, I think people are still having entire Twitter Spaces talking about this, and you know, putting out videos, and it's, you know, in the news. Like, you know, I heard my father-in-law talking about this to my mother-in-law last night. You know, like, you know, everybody knows about this Twitter rebrand, which I can't tell you, you know, another company that rebranded, you know, anytime within the last number of years. Like, that's just not something people pay attention to. So interesting stuff. Now, have you seen since then? Because it's, you know, it's been about almost a week, right? Or was that earlier this week? Was it Monday when they? It was either Sunday or Monday. You could see the videos where they were outside headquarters in San Francisco taking down the Twitter. But then this is comical to me. And you know, this is just a side note or whatever. But you know, out there in San Francisco, you know, they were removing the Twitter off the side of the building, but they got shut down because he didn't get permits to have the equipment out there to take down the letters. Yet, you know, we know the madness that is San Francisco at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I can actually see the Twitter building out my window right now. I live about a block and a half away, and I was trying to, as you were talking, I was verifying there's an X like on the side, and then there's there's the bird logo still there, and then it still says Twitter.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Now, I know I'm you know, not that it matters, but I am wondering how long it's going to take for the mobile app. At least I've got an iPhone, the 14X, whatever the heck it is, the Pro, the 14 Pro, whatever. I don't even know, Pro Max. And my app has not changed yet. I haven't seen anybody with the new logo as the app icon, but that'll be interesting when that happens. But so then, have you guys seen any increase in the .x domains since that rebrand?
Yeah, they've been going a little wild, which I think makes sense. Like, we agree with Elon that X is one of or potentially like the top, like the top term for domains in the world, and that's part of the reason why why we picked it. I think that's part of the reason why he picked something similar. So we did anticipate this to some extent. Like, we thought that X would be a very popular term. We obviously didn't think that Elon was going to, a year and a half later, like buy Twitter and convert it to X. So that's like a little, that's kind of like extra momentum behind it that that I think we weren't expecting. But we were thinking that this was going to be a super valuable term, and that that based on really the evidence was X.com. X.com is believed to be the most valuable domain name in the world, and that's part of the reason why we thought that .x was going to be so important. So this is more like a confirmation of something that we already believed, but with an Elon viral marketing campaign, which never hurts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's like front and center in the tech world, the crypto world. I mean, everything. A lot of the ecosystems that you guys touch. There's exposure for everybody, which we all need. Do you agree that we should start to see some ramped up excitement and activity in the blockchain ecosystem at the tail end of this year, leading up to the halvening next year?
That would be a counter pattern if that's what happened. If you go back to history, you would say that the halvening tends to be kind of somewhere around the beginning of the new wave, but not usually before. I mean, again, this is not like real advice. This is like stare at chart from past. Like, that's not like a particularly insightful view of the future or anything.
Right.
But I do think that there is something to do where people. I do think the happening kind of wakes up people a little bit, where it says, like, you basically just tell the entire world, hey, everybody, now supply is less than it was yesterday. And I think that's just a very easy idea for people to understand. And it does trigger some extra awareness and does tend to trigger some Bitcoin price movement, which tends to get other people focused. But if you remember last time, like when that happened, there was already a bunch of cool stuff happening in DeFi. And that's really one of the things that propelled crypto forward in 2020 was not just the happening. So you still need like some real new thing that is getting users, and like what's going to be the next thing that pulls in a bunch of users, I think is a pretty tough thing to predict. But no, I think that the bears tend to last longer than people think or want. So I don't think we're right on the cusp of a turnaround or anything. I think we still got a ways to go, unfortunately.
Hey, I mean, it's like you said, history does not repeat, but it tends to rhyme. And so we all know it's coming. It is a market. It is cyclical. It's just a matter of, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. No, I feel you there. Definitely excited for, the sentiment to change. That's something that, we like looking at a site called NFTgo.io. They've got an NFT market sentiment up there. And that thing has been like a straight up roller coaster recently. Sitting at a 17 today. We had at one point just a few weeks ago, maybe at this point, maybe 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, we were up into the 50s and then, dropped like a rock down to the teens and kind of just been hovering in like the low 20s to the high teens for, a little bit here. But, we'll do some up and down. So we were at 20 the other day, 17 today. So, it's really interesting. And I know that, once the market does come back, there will be a lot more excitement and kind of sticking to what we're talking about, integrating into some of these other platforms. How does that look for you guys? We've seen the news like, what is it? The Google Play Store is now allowing NFT games. We know Sony has been working on NFT integration for the PlayStation. That was something that was announced. It's like a year after they filed for the trademark patents. And then they went and announced that this is what they were working on. With the Polygon, I believe the Polygon blockchain. And then we know that there's a lot of money being put into Solana from Google. And was it Google or is it Google or Microsoft? One of the two. And so, integrating, Xbox and PlayStation now into this ecosystem, how do you see yourselves playing well with those big tech companies to make sure that, maybe some of these digital identity integrations can happen, with the gamers that we're going to see? Because there's like 3.6 billion gamers on the planet. So if we can have a smooth transition of a percentage of those people into our ecosystem is a huge number. How do you facilitate, integrating your domain solutions into that kind of ecosystem?
So the main thing that we need in order for digital identity to get everywhere on the internet is we need apps to enable support for crypto wallets. And there's a lot of different ways that they do this. Like, if you're PayPal, like you enable like a Bitcoin and an Ethereum wallet or something. If you're, Instagram or your Twitter, you enable Connect Wallet so that you can display your NFTs. And then we've now gone to this new place where now there's all sorts of apps, including gaming apps where you can have NFT items. And in order for them to facilitate that, they have to have a wallet. And if they have a wallet, it means that you can have a digital identity in that wallet, and you can use that as your username in apps. So the good news is that, and I think this is really bullish, and something that I absolutely did not predict would happen so early in 2021 and 2022, which is that basically every mainstream large consumer app you could think of had some sort of crypto wallet functionality, which enables all the other things that we want to see. So I'm pretty bullish in that now we are really just a handful of integrations away from having access to essentially every internet user.
Mm-hmm.
So those are hard to do, because these are big companies that are going in a certain direction. I think the other thing to keep in mind is that there are some big players who get an advantage from their existing username system. I even think Twitter is one where like one of their advantages is the fact that they have this internal username system that they control. So I just want to be candid with everybody about what we're up against. There are going to be a lot of companies that are going to embrace Web3 tech because it doesn't hurt their core business, it helps their core business. There is going to be another group of companies that has a moat to protect, and they may not embrace this as much, and they may be closer to kind of like the final boss that crypto industry has to fight and win in order to go fully mainstream. So I think it's not just what I said about them supporting crypto wallets. There's also an incentive issue with some apps, and when that happens, I think that's going to mean that the crypto industry is going to need to fight even harder in order to get their tech out to really all the other apps, so that they can go mainstream. So I think that's one of the dynamics to keep in mind, is that some of these big companies might actually feel like they're not going to do as well if this future takes hold because of the way that they've been treating users, or because the way their business model works today.
Yeah, it's almost like, you had talked about, you have the Web3 Domain Alliance, almost like, there we needs to have a bigger alliance of partnerships, right? That can then, get together and work side by side with, making sure the integrations work well. I know that you guys have done a fantastic job of the partnerships. I mean, one of our really good friends of this show, Craig and Hermie over at Unstoppable, we know that you guys are, running a partnership with them. And, it seems like, like I had said earlier in the show, like for a while, it's almost, whether it was weekly or a couple times a week, like you guys were dropping announcements of partnerships and integrations, all sorts of stuff. I mean, do you think that that's what it's going to take to really take get a really good foot in the door with some of these other mainstream tech companies in order to do the integrations like we want to get into this ecosystem and expand the offering? Do you think it's through partnerships or building alliances, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's how you got to do it. You got to talk to people. You got to convince them that this is good for them. You got to help them get live. You got to work with them to continue to onboard more of their users. And I think this has just always been our strategy. It's always been this, because domain names have this weird quality where like you don't. So you don't use the domain name at unstoppabledomains.com. You buy it there and you manage it, but then you actually have to go somewhere else in order to use it. So we're constantly sending our users to other apps, and that presents an opportunity where we can tell companies, hey, like when we integrate with you, our goal is going to be to get you more users, because that's the whole purpose of our network. So that has helped us just in terms of like alignment with partners to get them to want to try out domain names, because there's something very clear there that we can offer on top of the technology, which is that we're going to be pushing users in your direction. And I think that that's really going to be the motivation for bigger apps too, which is like, I want more crypto savvy users in my ecosystem, and I think that if I have a crypto wallet, if I have a user with a crypto wallet, then all of a sudden I can drop them rewards and other things of value, and that dynamic right there is something that that big companies are very excited about. And so, we've taken this kind of partnership approach from the beginning. We'll get you integrate our tech. We'll send our users to you. Has been a pretty good pitch, and we've got a team that's been working on those partnerships for the past 4 years, and that's really just how we've grown primarily.
Hell yeah, man. I like that. I just posted up in the nest for anybody, if you are interested, the link from Unstoppable, or from MetaRides, but to where you could mint the Unstoppable MetaRides vehicle. Those things are dope. I am definitely going to be minting one very soon here. I was looking at the secondary, just so I don't know if we've got Hermie or Craig behind the MetaRides account, but I was looking at the secondary, and man, I tell you what, I got to get one with a spoiler. So I might have to mint a few until I get one, because I didn't want to buy in secondary. I want to mint one of those, but I got to get one with a spoiler, because those things look so much so awesome. We got a couple people from the community that popped up. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Beaskeet, hey, there you go. There's your hand. What's up, GMGM?
Yo, big fan of Unstoppable. I've been watching you guys for a couple years, and I just think what you guys are doing is just it's bigger than ENS domains, and I really enjoy that. So, but I kind of wanted to hop in and provide a counterpoint, as I usually do. Everyone's saying how brilliant of a move the rebranding was. I don't disagree that if he can snatch X, that's a giant move and brilliant, but it was done super fast. It looked unorganized to me, which isn't something you do on this level of corporate structure. Like you said, trying to remove the sign out front and then got stopped because you guys didn't get the right permits to do it. I've heard stories about around the office, people trying to like take down the Twitter bird and breaking things because they could not remove it like in a optimizable fashion. And then there's the other aspect, which is you're just dumping the Twitter brand. The Twitter brand by itself was enormously valuable. If you want to build X and spin it off of Twitter, roll Twitter into it. But to dump the Twitter bird, to dump the Twitter brand, I mean, you've got Twitter, Instagram. These are like the behemoths in the space. It took a lot to build that brand, and buying it and then just eschewing it, to me, does not seem like a brilliant move. And I'm wondering what you think about that, because I love Elon Musk, and I have for years, but I also accept that brilliant people can often be blind to some of the outcomes of what they're doing, and I think sometimes he loses his way in his brilliance. But I do not think dumping the Twitter brand was a smart move at all.
I think the only thing that I would possibly say to that, Beaskeet, is look at
you know what, I think that's true, but everybody's talking about the new X branding and all that, and then I think if you kind of look at it and you take the X and you look at it as a Times, you know what I mean? And then Twitter has always called itself the town square, and it's always been here reporting news. A lot of people get their breaking news there. I would argue this is kind of like Times Square, and I think that there's even more branding power there. I mean, Twitter helped some cachet. Yes, it was earned over time, but Times comes and X comes with some branding power to it automatically, innately. And so I think it's just going to go up from there.
It's not even a brand that he owns. There's going to be huge contention over who owns the X brand and who's copywritten it and who's trademarked it, because he has competition there. And it's not like small company competition where some dude bought it off eBay and wants to fight him and he can just outlast them in court. These are major corporations that already have a claim to what it is he's trying to claim.
There's like, I don't know if you guys saw this. This came out yesterday, but apparently, and who knows, maybe this is all just a big psyop on it, guys. Maybe we are living in the whatever it's called. But yesterday the news was Elon Musk's X was already trademarked by Mark Zuckerberg's Meta for social networking services. So
and by Microsoft for Xbox.
So what's the plan there? What's the angle? I think, Beefskeet, the only counter argument that I have against what you were saying was, look at companies like MySpace, right? MySpace was the #1 premier social media site for how long? And it just ran out, right? Like, and I think maybe some of these things have a shelf life. Maybe he was trying to anticipate that. Maybe that was the motive. Was like, here's the deal. We're starting to see a shift, so let's do something. Let's while we've got the attention, let's shift this thing over to X until because we're seeing Threads died. It was DOA on arrival, man. Instagram, they couldn't keep their Web3 offerings alive for 3 months. Facebook, you're either 13 or 75 on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, so these social media platforms have shelf lives. We do know that. And as we, transition into this fourth industrial revolution, I think what we know is social media is going to change. I personally think they need to be totally rehauled, but that's a different thing. And so maybe he's jumping the gun, or maybe he's a visionary in that way that he knows, like, this thing is, they're all going to be done very soon. So let's get moving on it now and leave Twitter, in the end. Who knows?
No, I get that, and I totally agree with some of those points. They're really good points. But I also think that there is some level of, awe and worship that goes into Elon Musk. For example, people always claim, he came into Twitter and he made it all about free speech. And I laugh at that idea. He has not made it about free speech. He's made it about certain kinds of free speech. But you go ahead and put up a post and talk about Threads and tell me how free your speech is on this app, because it will get zero traction.
That's probably very true. I do appreciate that.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was going to say the thing that I think is probably the most novel about this whole thing is that there was no filtering. Like, so you could think of this as like a bad thing. Like, there was no PR team that went and set everything up and planned it out. That he just fired it all and made it go viral. But I also think that there's a huge advantage to that. And there was a pretty clever analysis on All In podcast last week about presidential candidates, and there's the ones that package up their responses and have this big PR plan or whatever and come out with stuff, and then they don't go viral. And then there's this other group where they're just they're not checking with anybody. The candidates are literally just tweeting out what they feel an hour after something happens, and those are the ones that go viral. So there's this huge advantage to not having that kind of formalized whatever corporate process, because you can just allow yourself to go viral. You can also mess up badly. You can also get sued. You can also accidentally break the law, and many other things that Elon may or may not have done as a result of this strategy. But I think it's hard to ignore the advantage of shooting from the hip and just trying to go viral versus what basically everybody else does, which is this planned package thing. So I think that's probably the most notable trend that I've seen, and I definitely think people are going to keep doing it. I think if you're a little bit less abrasive, then it'll probably be less controversial. You could probably do a similar version of this and also not be a jerk to some people. So there's definitely probably better ways to do it. But I think that this shoot from the hip thing, even from companies, I think you're gonna start to see that a lot more, because it really it pays off in social media.
And it's on brand for Elon. If you've been watching Elon for a while, there were huge conflicts because I think he was actually sued by Tesla holders because of the comments he was making that were going viral and were bringing a lot of attention, but that were not necessarily good for the stock price. So it's on brand for him to do it that way, and I agree that it is sort of he's a troll. He's really good at that. He's really good at, like, figuring out what the meta is and then just poking it hard. So there is some value to that, but in the long run, that can also lead to missteps. And at some point, those missteps, like you said, he could be breaking the law in certain places, and those missteps could come up because going viral is not the end all when you're building a company that has to last, hopefully, 100 years.
It's it's interesting. I don't know if any social media company that we know of right now will be around in 100 years. Who knows? It doesn't look promising to me, but we'll figure that out there. Now, speaking of the future, Brad, what are some of the obviously nothing proprietary or things that you can't talk about, but what are some of the things that you guys are looking forward to kind of in the future, whether it's the soon future, next year kind of thing, tying in with the more attention into our ecosystem when the bull run does eventually start. What are some of the things that you are looking forward to with Unstoppable Domains?
I think we've been on this general trend over the past, like inside of Web3 domain world, we've been on this trend around identity use cases, around like you can go to Unstoppable Domains and you can build out a digital profile. You can attach all sorts of information to it. People can go and look that up. It's kind of like the beginnings of decentralized social media, and there's been a whole bunch of cool tools and things around that. So like that's been kind of like, I would say that's probably been maybe for the last year or so, that's been kind of like a big area of innovation for Web3 domains. I think we're moving into this like messaging and communications phase. So there's been a whole bunch of awesome, now there's been email apps that work with your domain names for a while, but they're getting really good. And there's also a lot of competition now. There's also a whole bunch of like instant messenger style, like DM style apps with your domain name that are coming out. And I think that we're eventually going to see some, like VoIP and things like that. So I feel like that's the phase we're in right now, and Unstoppable is the platform here. So you won't see us building those apps, but we are actively working with companies that are building them and trying to get promoting them and trying to get our users to use them. So I think 1 year from now, you're probably going to see a pretty amazing ecosystem of messaging tools associated with your domain name. So that's probably the thing I'm watching the most closely right now. And these things do tend to come in waves, where like there's like a technology breakthrough, or there's a UX breakthrough, or there's just like a consensus in the minds of the market that like, hey, like this has to happen now. And then you see a bunch of different builders go after it, and then it gets really competitive, and then you see really awesome stuff for users. So the reason I'm calling it out is not because this thing was just invented. The first email app probably came out like 4 years ago or something. The reason I'm calling it out is because I feel like we're on this wave right now where like a ton of awesome people are working on it. So I think we're gonna see some cool stuff soon. And there already is cool stuff. It's just getting cool.
I love that. It almost feels like, when you start to describe some of the stuff that very potentially could, I know this sounds crazy, replace cell phones, right? If your domain is the access to you in several different ways, and like you said, even a VoIP service where now, I can connect from my website or from my domain to Vskeets, and we can have a video chat. Like, what's the point of a cell phone? As long as you have an internet connection and you can communicate with each other, I don't see the need for cell phones. I mean, now that's ways down the road, but I mean that's a potential use case for that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely. Like, and I think that there's, all of these identifiers that consumers use today, like they are divided. I've got my email address over here and my DM inbox over there, and I've got my phone number over here. All of the fact
fact that you have all these different usernames creates a problem where it's so much easier to impersonate you. It's so much easier to trick somebody into thinking that they're talking to you or they're interacting with you because you have this identity problem that exists across all your apps. So if you have a world where your Web3 username is your email address, your DM, your phone number, your payment address, your login, like that's going to make it a heck of a lot harder for somebody else to pretend on some other platform to be you. So I think that's a really big advantage, on top of the fact that you actually own this username, and whatever phone company or whatever can't just turn you off or sell your data or whatever else they're doing.
Heck yeah, man! I like that. Let's get some of these hands. We'll go Token Panda and the BC.
Hey, what's up, J-Chain? Thanks for doing today with a really awesome guest. Question for Unstoppable. So for your decentralized website and like the IPFS website, basically, if I have a domain, what's the best way for me to link that to someone to go to? Do they I see Brave is it's set up to, what's the right term? Supports so it has the infrastructure to support it. Proceed with the user infra server, and then to the what's this next one? What's the best way to link it to be able to use it, to be able to see it? Is it like a browser extension, or is it just going to optimize with Brave, etc.?
Yeah, so Brave has a native integration, so you can just type in the domain names and it works. I think you do have to give permissions one time, so they want to let you know, hey, this is a decentralized website. It's not, not part of the regular internet. It doesn't have the same security standards and stuff. So that's why you're probably seeing that warning. But it does work natively in Brave, Opera, and then you can use, Unstoppable's Chrome extension or one of the other extensions that exist out there.
So when I post that link for someone, how do I, that is through the browser extension, is the link then taking the browser extension there, so all we have to do is click it or copy and paste it, or is it instructed to take this link and put it into your extension browser?
You can give them the domain name, and you can just tell them the domain name, and then they can type it in.
So the example there would be my website is jchains.me. But if I wanted to give it somehow, make it so if you go to jchains.x, it takes you to that particular website. That's also how if you wanted to pay me because it's connected to the ERC20. That's what you kind of mean, right? Is that you can use it as a website and as a wallet?
Well, yeah, I find that I've been using it more as a wallet than less of a website, and I'm trying to link newbies to my decentralized website, and I'm having a difficulty, not difficulty, but I just find it confusing.
It is a little, and I think that, it is a little, and I think that websites as a use case for domain names, for Web3 domain names, has been it's been lagging behind the consumer identity use cases, and I think the reason why is because consumers don't really build websites typically, so they're more concerned with, a profile, and it's closer to the consumer web page, so to speak. I think is closer to a profile page. So I think that's the reason why, and so I think you're not your experience is common. Most people are using it for payments, most people are using it for the identity features, they're going to be using it for messaging and stuff. Websites tend to be for businesses, and I think eventually this tech is going to be a good fit for business identity, but today, I think .com's working great, and it's got they have native integration inside of Chrome and all the browsers. So that's I think that ecosystem is pretty evolved, And Web3 domain names have a little ways to go in order to do business use cases. And we've decided as a company just not to focus there. Like, we think that the consumer stuff is ready now, and the business stuff is probably a few years away. So that's the reason why, like, if you're asking, like, yeah, it's like a little, like it looks a little unclear. Part of the reason why is that we just haven't focused on it as much, because we're just trying to get users to focus more on profile and payments, etc. But yeah, the tech works. You can build whatever on IPFS. IPFS is a little harder to use. There's some browser limitations. So you probably won't see us pushing that as a use case quite as hard as some of these identity things.
Thanks for the response, man. I love the stuff. I've had one for a while. You can rock on. Cheers, bro. Thanks.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, BC. Thank you, Brad.
One thing, Jay, is I don't think anybody uses their cell phone for making phone calls as much as they do other things. I think the percentage of time you spend on phone calls on your phone versus the percentage of time you spend on your phone, they're not really for cell phone calls anymore. They're for everything. So the cell phone won't go away because it's a powerful computer you carry around with you. Unstoppable, my question is, a lot of people in this space are sort of decentralized maxis, but you guys going more towards identity and a decentralized identity, you're not decentralized maxis. You're going to branch out and reach out to centralized protocols that still use this as identity verification, right?
Yeah, I would say the most controversial thing about Unstoppable is that we believe in a pragmatic revolution. So we are not maximalist in really any way. We're willing and able and do support all of the top blockchains. We will not build on just one blockchain. We'll build wherever the best place is for users, and that's going to be many blockchains. We'll build tools that have some Web 2-like qualities, like the Web 2, like Google Auth login, credit card payments, storing in bulk, all of these things that we think help make the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 better. Like, I think that's really our role in the market, is that we can onboard normies. So it's not, it's not that I don't care. I love Bitcoin, love Ethereum, I've been in the space for 10 years. It's that, practically speaking, we want to get to 5 billion internet users, and we're really just going to kind of block out everything that doesn't move that goal forward. And in crypto land, pragmatism is controversial, but I think it's actually like the least controversial position you could possibly take, which is just, we want number of users to go up. So we will continue to figure out what we need to build in order for that. And if it disagrees with your philosophical view of the world, sorry. If it's working, we're going to keep doing it.
Dude, I love that so much, because in my theory, the onboarding will be centralized. There's really no way to fight that. We still need to fight for our decentralized rights levels, but I love hearing that you're open to what builds the thing out for us.
The thing is that the tools always have a choice. So, like, you go to unstoppabledomains.com, you can store your domain in MetaMask, and you can be 100% self-sovereign, because the protocol allows you to choose. And so you can do that, or you can go and store your domain in a custodian, which is very similar to what happens with Bitcoin. And Coinbase was just a massive lift for Bitcoin by enabling people to not have to worry anymore. So that's I think the dynamic that's happening here.
Man, I like that, and I do agree with you, BC, and I'm glad that you said that. And we kind of all think that same way, that the future of where we are in the immediate future is definitely centralized. It has to be. There's just no way excuse me, around that. And then it's like, it's much like where we are now, where, people will take, like, if you feel like I want to take, my blockchain to the next level, then you start using, decentralized applications and platforms a little bit easier. Once we get to a true decentralized, I think, a lot of us can really make an argument that nothing truly is decentralized at this particular moment. With the exception of Bitcoin, I do understand that. But, that's just kind of where we are now. But I see we got another hand. Yan, what is up, Yan? How are you today?
Hey, Jay Chains. Thanks, man. Appreciate you for letting me up. Man.
Absolutely.
I've been wanting to speak to Matthew and Bradley for a very long time now. Wow, this is great. I really appreciate this, man. My question for Bradley is, Bradley, Unstoppable Domains claim to have sold, or minted, 3.7 million domains. So, of those total amount of domains, how many of those domains have been sold to customers? Because I've been asking this question to Matthew for such a long time, and Matthew knows all the figures off by heart. He lives and breathes Unstoppable Domains.
You've already asked your question. So,
right. Can you answer it?
Yeah.
Because you keep evading people.
I'll get the answer. Hey, Jan,
just so you know,
we don't evade any question.
I brought him down off the speaker panel just for just the combative nature there. I didn't feel that to be necessary. I didn't know, man. I didn't know that he's tried to do this before. So apologies.
It's all right. We'll answer the question publicly. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but that's not a question we're afraid of or anything. So happy to get the answer. There was $100 million credit airdrop. So there is a decent number of domain names that were purchased with credits. Registered with credits instead of money. So that's the nature of the question. Not all 3.7 million domains can somebody check out and buy, but a lot of them. So we'll get the number for full transparency.
Yeah, I mean, in full transparency, I mean, like I'm one of those people too that have used credits. I mean, we've issued credits. We have a partnership with you guys, and so we have had people. What's up?
Everybody, I would like to know how Unstoppable is different from Audio, because they are saying the same thing, right?
What was your question?
Unstoppable has been selling domain names for 2 years. Every now and then, you will see cases where somebody tries to scam users. That's the reason why we've created the Web3 Domain Alliance, and we've had to deal with many collisions over the years. Like that's kind of the nature of being in this new space when there's no regulation. And so the best thing we can do as a community is be responsible, be careful, and be pro-crypto user. And attempting to introduce collisions is being anti-crypto user. That is an attack on crypto users and apps. And it needs to be strongly discouraged by the community. And any community that goes about trying to do this at scale is going to suffer. Like they will be shut out broadly from applications for doing that. And that's already happening. There's been a couple of blockchain communities that really haven't been able to progress because they've focused essentially on IP scams. And I think that's just not a successful business strategy. So I definitely don't recommend that.
Yeah, let's stick to
I would like to know how you guys are different from others. I'm not talking about like those legal things, like how you guys are different from others.
That question doesn't fully make sense because Ordinals is a protocol on Bitcoin for launching NFTs. Unstoppable Domains is a digital identity system that launches on multiple blockchains. So, we launch on Polygon, and those are ERC 721s. We've also launched on Ethereum. We've also launched on other blockchains. So Ordinals would be it would just be launching on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a platform. Unstoppable is an app. We're currently on Polygon. That's how it works.
What's next?
So if somebody wants to launch a plan for the same thing, they do the same, right?
we kind of already went through this,
Anybody can launch anything on any blockchain. The issue is app support. So app supporting your thing is what makes it legitimate, and it's also what makes it work. So that's the key here. On OpenSea, people launch fake, scam NFT collections all the time, and they get taken down. And anybody who argues that it's decentralized, we should allow IP scams and users to be tricked, I would say you're crazy. We should definitely not do that.
Yeah, and not welcome in this space.
So like the way protocol is going to stop you, like information less anybody can launch anything on the protocol. That's the whole system of the protocol. They should not be decentralized. Gatekeeping people person who's like talk English.
I think you're completely wrong. I think you misunderstand how it works, and I just can't say that. Can't say that strongly enough. That's actually the argument I was just making, which is that anybody who believes that does not understand how IP scams work, and arguing that it is somehow good to allow for users to be scammed is just the most antisocial argument I hear in crypto, and it needs to go. Like, we as a crypto community need to fight against that toxic and dangerous idea, and all the rational players already do. So it's really just, kind of people out there on their own island thinking that somehow protecting users doesn't matter. So I just can't say that strongly enough.
Yeah, no, thank you for being very diplomatic there. ONL9. If I were you, man, I'd do some more research, check out some more communities, some articles, man, do some stuff. Definitely come back and hang out with us some other time. Appreciate your questions. Turbo, you got your hand up. What's up, man?
Yo, what up? Good morning, GM, man. Yeah, big day having Unstoppable, and you know how much I love Sandy and the entire team over there. It's been a crazy week. There's something in the ether, but we're here, we're doing it, and that's so freaking awesome. How's everything going?
Good, man. Two trolls in one show is I feel like that's a record for us. I think one is the most we've had.
No, the thing that's like crazy is that I was just looking, I think it was like 2 days ago at all of the fake turbo.
Peacekeepers troll. What turbo?
No. I was saying, I was just looking at how many fake turbo maggots there are on Twitter. That's how I generally try to gauge the amount of influence someone's having, based on the number of fake profiles. But I think Unstoppable's like hitting it on the head, you know what I'm saying? The more that we can get rid of the scamming and the people trying to fake and take from each other, this identity is crucial to the advancement of the space.
Feel that.
Yes. I am a first-time speaker, long-time listener. I'm the third troll of the day, and I just want to say that pizza sucks.
I cannot believe that you would say that, Messi. What is up, man? How are you doing?
GM, I'm here.
What up?
Been better, been worse, but I'm here, so I won't complain. You know what I'm saying? Some people did wake up today, so I can't complain. How y'all living?
Good. Although I'm getting, I got messages. Yesterday it sounded like the audio was kind of messed up, and when I put up that clip of Turbo talking about how he, introduces himself to his customers, clients as Turbo, I clipped that moment. It was a little scratchy, and man, I'll tell you what, I'm getting reports now on LinkedIn and YouTube that the audio is scratchy. I have absolutely no idea why. So apologies if you are listening on one of those platforms. Everything's fine on Twitter, from what I understand. So I'm going to deconstruct the whole setup today, bring in the wires while something's crossed. Apologies for everybody that's experiencing the static.
Man, honestly, no disrespect to nobody that listens or whatever, but it's their fault for not being here for the live thing.
There you go.
It's Web3 breakfast. Like, how you not waking up to Turbo 4K and change? Like, you're not doing that? You're not having a good day. That's exactly why I came in here. So I'm trying to have a good day. Let's go.
I feel you, man. All of us, we're talking with Brad from Unstoppable a little bit ago, and kind of getting his thoughts on the market and stuff. And I think that we can all feel that we are all ready for a bull run, even though we're not there yet. I think sentiment-wise, emotionally, financially, we're all ready. We're all ready for some action. GM.
How are you guys? Good morning. Mr. Brad, I thought we don't need. How are you? Let me see.
Zima's he's our resident robot slash alien slash amazing.
You know what? You brought a good point regarding the market. Unstoppable domain has insights, right? In terms of impact, the view numbers actually like reflect activity. You know, or like you guys see a pickup or a trend. Does it relate to the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably relatively correlated with the NFT market in general. That's what it looks like. I mean, everybody is correlated with the crypto markets. I think generally, almost everybody. But yeah, us probably a little bit more with the NFT market. And it's been. It's been down since middle of 2022. That's really when things started